Hi, I'm Brian from Bankstown, and you're watching the very first episode of Boomerposting with Brian. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Brian, what is boomerposting? Well, it's the art of posting online as a boomer. And the point to this show is to teach you everything about boomerposting, even if you are a digital content novice. And I bet you're thinking, Brian, what is this? Digital? It's 1986. Well, let me tell you, we're not even going to bother worrying about it. We're just going to keep pushing past those pesky anachronisms, and we're just going to focus on what we're here to do. Tonight we're going to start by establishing a glossary of terms. We're going to look at how those terms apply to the real world, and then we're going to segue into comedy and satire, and some of the rules around that. And after that, we're going to finish up on the type of art that can be created within the world of boomerposting. Now, if you don't feel like sticking around for the whole thing, that's okay. Just check out some of the time codes on the bottom of your screen right now. I want you to imagine a Venn diagram with 3 circles. One of those Venn diagrams is rocking a groovy members-only jacket. The other 2 Venn diagrams are wearing knitted sweaters. Can you guess which Venn diagram is the elderly one? Well, would it blow your mind to know that elderly people can wear trendy clothes like members-only jackets as well? Okay, I know you might be struggling to see the connection here, but bear with me. Replace the clothes in those Venn diagrams with words. 3 words: boomer, elderly, and regressive. So what's the difference between these 3 words? Well, to establish that, we need to take a walk down history lane. For instance, let's start with the word boomer. Many people still think that boomer refers only to the term baby boomer. This definition is flawed. Using this definition ignores the very real shift that's happened over the last few years. And do you know where this shift started? That's right, in the New Zealand Parliament. This shift started when New Zealand politician Chloe Swarbrick used the term "OK Boomer" in response to a comment that she didn't like. In reaction to this, the internet started using the phrase in a similar fashion. So when we put this all together, we can create a kind of formula. Elderly plus regressive equals boomer. But it still doesn't feel quite right. Surely there's got to be more to it than that. Because I know what you're thinking. I know you're thinking that these definitions are very fast and loose. You're probably wondering where the line is for what makes someone a boomer versus an elderly person with regressive views. Well, I'll show you that line. The line looks like this. What you're looking at is a graph demonstrating the peak for leaded petrol consumption. And you're probably thinking, what does that have to do with anything? But when you compare the use of leaded gas and the incidences of violent crime, you realize that these lines might as well just be the same line. So, in a nutshell, what's the difference between a boomer and an old person with regressive views? It's simple. Lead poisoning. Okay, now that we've established these 3 major terms, let's set about applying them to the real world. I want you to imagine you're in a store. You see someone demanding to speak to the manager. Is this person a regressive individual, an elderly person, or a lead-addled boomer? None of them. This is the secret 4th option. Karen. Okay, let's try another one. You're in a fast food store. You see someone screaming for the manager and demanding a refund. Is it a Karen, a lead-loving boomer, or an elderly person? Joke's on you. It was me, and I did not get my refund. You receive a text message. It looks like it was written by a drunken chihuahua. Is this a Karen, an elderly person, or someone who spent their life huffing lead? Wrong for a 4th consecutive time in a row. You suck. It was none of them. This is a Jim, a boomer's wholesome cousin. As use of social media increased over the last 10 years, a huge user demographic was the baby boomers. And as a response to this, certain sections of the internet sprang up dedicated to satirizing this user base. You know, the user base who spent their life guzzling leaded gasoline like it was their job. But of course this brings us to the meat of the video, which is online roleplay. There are all these groups out there, organized mostly by geography, where users contribute material role-playing as boomers. You know, like they're in character, they make a character, and then they post. Are you familiar with the concept of roleplay? It's kind of like acting, but like for no money and a lot cringier. But these posts have all the hallmarks of what you would expect to find in your grandmother's posts, from bigotry to spelling mistakes, just casual, normal things. And look, I know, I get it, I get it. Why would anyone waste their time role-playing as boomers? And that's a really good question, and I'm not sure that I hold all the answers, except I do. The answer is because comedy is like a superpower that can be used to heal all wounds. And people tend to use their boomer characters as a way to vent their frustrations about how they've been treated within the world. And I think that that's the best thing of all, because it gives people a chance to really sort of express themselves in a healthy way that shares their fears and worries with other like-minded people who also have those fears and frustrations. And you know, sometimes I feel like comedy could fix everything. If I'm having a particularly bad day, I like just going and making someone else laugh, and then boom, it's like magic. I feel so much better for having had a positive impact on someone else's day. And look, I bet that you're wanting to jump in and make an account and get into this and do this yourself, but I want you to just hold your horses for a moment, hold your horses, and let's just have a discussion about what posting in this kind of area, what that entails. So before you go rushing into the world of boomer roleplay, I think you need to ask first, what's the joke here? I have a controversial opinion that jokes are meant to be funny. And so if people say, this kind of thing isn't making me laugh, maybe you need a new joke. Because I know it's trendy for people to say now that you can't joke about anything. I disagree. I think jokes are better because now we expect jokes to come from a place of intimate personal knowledge. I'm going to confide. So it's really important that if you're going to get into boomer roleplay, that you don't just use your character as a shield from behind which you're just lobbing out insults. One thing I like to do if I'm going to make a joke that relies a bit on the darker side is to follow it up with a truly sobering comment. A great example of this might be, I don't like the LGTVs, my children don't speak to me. The joke here isn't the bigotry, it's the fact that the character lacks self-awareness. The aim with this is to kind of have a secondary target in mind. You want to shift the target from a specific group and onto a type of attitude. And using this formula works even better when you can combine it with some kind of unique insight or insider knowledge. Now, if you really want to be funny, you can try this thing called subverting expectations. That's this really cool Star Wars thing where the audience thinks you're going to do one thing, but then you do something completely random and the audience loves it and the movie's a hit. It's kind of like when you go to a restaurant and you order something that you think will be really nice, but then when you get the plate, it's got eggs all through it and your whole fucking night is ruined. So look, let's just say you were in the boomer posting group and you saw a post about a same-sex marriage. Look, the easy thing to do would be to play the bigoted boomer role, right? It's so easy. But you could totally subvert expectations and go the way of the gym. Maybe you post a Minions meme or some other word of encouragement. But you could also go another way and offer some misguided support. Maybe you could also barely conceal your bigotry behind a thin veneer of positivity. You could say, wow, nice wedding, not my kind of thing, but seems like you enjoyed it. That's a whole other thing that you could do. But Brian's bit number one. Make fun of yourself first. I say that because it's in this place here that comedy can truly unlock its magical healing powers. And I know you're probably thinking, Brian, what are you talking about? How can comedy heal anything? Well, I want to tell you a little story. It's about a handsome man who only had one physical flaw besides from a little bit of balding. The flaw was his nose. It was so large it could keep all of Australia dry. I've heard all the jokes. They're not funny. But here's the thing, beyond the nose, he's still a handsome guy, but he has this one physical flaw. So what does he do? Because he has an ounce of personality, he takes this flaw and he creates something a little bit more comedic from it. So imagine you're this guy. What do? Well, what I would do if I was in that situation is I would take a photo, a selfie, and I would take it into a photo editing software, Photoshop, that kind of thing, and I would make the nose a bit bigger. And why do you do this? Well, you do this because every time you look at this photo, it becomes normalized in your mind that you have this huge, it's been digitally altered, right? But every time you look in the mirror, it looks a little bit smaller than it does in the photos, which is completely normal. And I do this, I just talk and talk and talk. So, but we've done all this, and now we're at the juicy part. We're at the part where we start talking about how to create our content. There are so many things you can create, from reviews to complaints, selfies, blurry photos, adverts, portraits. The sky is your limit. But there's one rule that I like to stick to. Only create original content. I know, I get it. It can be really tough to create original content, and it can be really, really demoralizing if you spend all this time making something and then it only gets a handful of likes because everyone in the group just doesn't get your vision. They don't understand how funny you really are. That can really suck. But the thing is, have you ever seen something like a banana stuck on a wall and you think, I could definitely make that kind of art and then I would get a whole bunch of money too? Well, I'm here to tell you, you can do that. You can just make really lame art and put it out there. And guess what? People have bad taste. So, but my point is, you actually have to make stuff. You have to do it. Like, if you want to get the likes, you have to make the things. Because let me tell you, this is a huge problem. You've got all these people that are coming into our group, they're bringing low quality content that they've just copied off the internet, and they're diluting our hard original posters, and they're diluting the group, and people who do hard work are being ignored in favor of people who are copying and pasting stock images. I'm sorry, but I'm just tired of it, okay? Make original content for once. And as we reach page 12 in the script, you're probably thinking we're nearing up the end. Well, no, you would be wrong. You would be absolutely incorrect. Because we're here for Brian's bit number 2. Don't let boomer posting consume you. The next thing you know, your phone's going to be all capsing words, your autocorrect is going to assume that you're misspelling things because you just don't understand. It's just going to mess up your whole timeline. You're going to get adverts you never thought you were going to get. So, let me tell you another spooky story about a very handsome man who went to a restaurant and had a very positive experience and thought this small business deserves a good review. And so he wrote a lovely review. It was absolutely glowing, a well-written review worthy of a Pulitzer. But he did not post it to the restaurant's Facebook page. He posted it to his own page. And people saw. And since then, I have had to post in boomer character on my real profile because I made this one mistake and I wanted people to think that I was just in character. I was not in character. I don't even think I was sober. I think that was the problem. But now we're at the end. Here's the thing. I could talk about this for hours if we didn't wrap it up. I've been told that I can't exceed a 20-minute time limit, which is ridiculous. You wouldn't expect Michelangelo to explain the entire art of oil painting to you in under 20 minutes. He would have to explain the pigments and the stucco and the technique, and how could he explain to you the process it took to paint the Mona Lisa in under 20 minutes? But if you've stuck around to the end, I hope you've learned something. And if you've enjoyed this episode and would like to see more, please let me know. Until then, from me to you, Have a good night. And do you know where this use the term, okay boomer, I'm not going to do that hand signal. That sounded like a rap. I could be a rap artist. But when you look at the use of lead and but when you look at the use of lead and gas and the when you see that lead poisoning, I want you to as social media upuse has said used by elderly as adoption of this line isn't working. I don't like that line. I'm really trying to get the hands moving. Then you really want to make sure that the target of the joke is not the group, but it's how could you expect the Sopranos to wrap up in under 20 minutes? They would have to cut stuff out and we would lose all of the Melfi scenes. I can't keep doing this.